please click on that comment and go watch that video. I do edit a video of a black woman recounting her experience in protests, not entirely dissimilar to the protests across the United States today, April 5th. But again, it's like, I mean, I'm homesick. I don't feel good. But I was watching all the live streams all day of protests all across this country. People who were live streaming for hours. And the one thing that I did not see in any of these live streams of any of these protests all across the country is I did not see cops in riot gear. I did not see overwhelming presence of law enforcement. I didn't see armored vehicles. I didn't see any of the things that I saw in live streams of every single protest for Black Lives Matter that I saw during the summer of 2020. And I think it's important for people who look like me to be aware of that and to understand that. And because since the election, one of my favorite things about this app is I get to follow a lot of people who don't look like me. And I follow a lot of black men and a lot of black women. And I've learned a tremendous amount from them. And one thing that they've been very, very consistent about, not a monolith, but very consistent about, is after Election Day, they're staying home. And protests like the ones that happened across the country today are for white people to be on the front lines. Because 92% of black women voted for Kamala Harris and over 80% of black men voted for Kamala Harris. They did their job. This is our lesson to learn. A huge majority of white men voted for Donald Trump, and a significant majority of white women voted for Donald Trump. So they're sitting out protests like this. I fully endorse and support that. Not that they need that from me. But I mean, I guess I would be saying that, in a lot of these protests, I think it's pretty clear that law enforcement across the country had advance notice that they were going to be dealing with white people today at all of these protests all across the country. And again, when I think back to the summer of 2020, even the protests that I went to, but the ones that I saw, because I watched a lot of them from Columbus, Ohio, because I'm from Ohio and I have a ton of friends still in Columbus and family. And, the protests during the summer of 2020 that we saw in Washington, D.C., I didn't see any horses on or any officers on horseback at any of these protests storming through the crowd, launching tear gas. I didn't see today any cops in riot gear with batons marching in a line, pushing people, forcing people, moving people. I saw all of those things during Black Lives Matter protests during the summer of 2020. And my perspective, and I did a video about this right before this one, it's a concrete example of white privilege, especially when it comes to protesting and dealing with law enforcement at protests. We were given a level of deference today nationwide that Black Lives Matter protesters were never given during 2020. That's just reality. And I remember so many times watching those protests and talking to so many of my friends back in Columbus. They were like, dude, it's crazy, man. Because those protests were going on day after day after day after day throughout that summer. And so many of my friends are just like, dude, it's fucking crazy, man. He's like, so many of them were like, the cops will be out there during the day and they're like taking photos with people, and they would take a knee with a crowd, and like almost socializing with everybody. And then it's like as soon as it hit like 7 or 8 p.m., riot gear came on, started firing rubber bullets, tear gas, the batons came out, and the police turned those protests into riots. The police instigated riots in those Black Lives Matter protests. We didn't see that today. We didn't see anything even remotely approaching that today. Not even close. And I think it's important that we be aware of that.